Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my 28 favorite movies from my 28 years of being alive. I originally made this back in the fall when I turned 28. I watch a lot of movies, as you guys know. I've watched a lot of movies since I was a child. I am on that millennial Gen Z cusp, and I think this is gonna make it very evident. Okay, let's dive in. I'm gonna attempt, I have a PowerPoint, but I'm just gonna attempt to like attach the pictures here and hope that I know how to do that. Okay, the first movie is called La Zona del Silencio, and it's this Mexican movie about aliens and like ancient curses and stuff. But I love it, one, because they cuss in Spanish, and I think the way that Mexican people cuss is just very beautiful to me. But two, aliens freak me out, and that's going to be a recurring theme in this video. Aliens are the one thing that I find the scariest. And it takes place in between Zacatecas and Durango, and I'm from Durango, and so I love that it's like so close to home. And this area really does exist. Like it's an area where a meteor dropped, and the United States government like immediately like went in and closed the whole area off, and we're like investigating, and supposedly like a lot of stuff happens, and people are like, well, obviously like a meteor fell, so there's a lot of after effects. But people believe it's aliens, some people believe it's like ancient curses. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but I love it. My bio on Letterboxd is literally love a shitty film. So this next one is not a shitty film. This next one is, I had to kick you guys out because I had to sneeze, and it felt very rude to sneeze in front of you. Anyway, this next one, I don't know if it's won an Oscar, but it's Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro. I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. Not so much of him as a person in recent years, but I love his work. When I took my first film class in like 11th grade or something, and we had to talk about a director, and I didn't want to talk about a white director. I didn't want to talk about, you know, even though I do love some white director. Anyway, I wanted to talk about someone who was Mexican, and that is how I first learned about Guillermo del Toro. I didn't know Guillermo del Toro. I didn't watch his movies, because he primarily makes horror, and that's just wasn't what my parents were watching. It wasn't what my sister was watching. So it wasn't until high school that I discovered who he was. I think Pan's Labyrinth is such a beautiful movie, and it's touches upon one of my favorite subjects, which is like grief is also love. I don't want to spoil too much, but I think it's beautiful. I love the fawn. I think if like the Brothers Grimm came back to life, they would think this is the most accurate depiction of a fairy tale, of what a fairy tale was originally, you know, meant to be. Third, I know this director is awful. I first watched this movie when I was like 6 or 7. I didn't know that man was awful until a couple years ago, so I'm sorry. It does hold a very special place in my heart. It's the first horror movie I ever watched. I think it's really good. I think Jeepers Creepers deserves to be one of the main horror villains. Like Jason, why is Jason here? What has Jason contributed? It wasn't even him for so long. It was his mom. Why is he here? People are trying to make Art the Clown happen. No, it should be the Creeper. That scene where they think they've run over him and he like flaps his wings. Iconic. Edge of 17. This movie fucked me up. I watched it once. I will never watch it again. I don't think I can watch it again. I think it's um Haley Steinfeld's best performance, and that's saying a lot because I think she's a really fantastic actress. I've been watching her since True Grit. Um, but I think I suffered a lot with like suicidal ideation and mental illness when I was a teenager. And for me, this is, you know, like I'm like, I've read all the classics. Like I've read The Perks of Being a Wallflower. But this movie to me is the most accurate representation of what it feels like to go through that in your teenage years. And it feels like everyone, including your family, doesn't understand it and kind of, instead of helping you, takes it out on you. I feel like it's a very universal feeling, and everyone I ever talked to about this movie loves it. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. I love Scooby-Doo, as I mentioned in my last video. I love Scooby-Doo. The first movie I ever watched in a theater was the live-action Scooby-Doo, and those monsters scared me. I love this because it's the only one where the monsters are real. I haven't seen any of the new shows or spin-offs and stuff, so those might also be real, but this one, in my days, was the only one where the monsters were real, so I love that. It's actually creepy. Like, they commit to being scary, and they are. It has amazing music, and just the dynamic of it, them coming back to solve one more mystery, and the mystery turns out to be genuinely real and something to worry about. I love it. Sinister. I love both Sinister movies. I hope and I pray that they will make a next installment. I think Ethan Hawke in horror is just it. Like, I think he's just so fantastic. When I first watched this, it was such a new take on children in horror movies. I think children are always creepy in like the way that the little kid in The Shining is creepy, where he's just like a little bit off-putting. And then even the little girls in The Shining, they just appear, but they're not menacing in a way that feels real. They're always menacing in a supernatural way, and in this movie, like, yes, there's a supernatural aspect, but they will rock your shit for real. Cinema Paradiso. I think this is the most romantic movie ever made. Again, grief is also love, and that doesn't just mean romantic love. This movie has stuck with me so much. My sister showed this movie to my mom and I when I was younger, and that scene where he's watching all the scenes of people kissing and he's sobbing, I think I will remember that for as long as I live. And also, I love movies. Of course I relate to him and Alfredo. I love their passion for movies. I think it's just such a beautiful movie. Shrek 2, specifically in Spanish, is the single greatest movie ever made. I know some of you just rolled your eyes at me. I don't care. This is the first movie I watched to drive in with my cousins and my sister. This movie's so funny, and I think if you don't speak Spanish, you don't understand the degree to which this movie is funny. And I will leave it at that. I love you, Shrek. If you know me, you know I love Shrek. Hereditary. I have beef with Ari Aster. I think he made this. It was impeccable, and then he just but that's a personal opinion. This movie fucked me up. This movie was scary. And not scary in like I was like jumping in my seat, but scary as in it really stayed with me. I was in the parking lot in my car researching demons after this because I wanted to know more about the history of Paimon. Also, this movie hasn't quite made it onto this list, but it is one of my favorites of all times. The movie Last Shift. The demon in that movie is also Paimon, so he's kind of iconic. Nope. Again, aliens scare the fuck out of me. Aliens scare me. Or at least aliens the way they're depicted in movies. Because who knows what real aliens are like. As someone who watched Skins UK, not in a legal way, I was risking those viruses on my laptop to watch Dev Patel, Nicholas Hoult, Daniel Kaluuya. This movie, when I watched it in theaters, made me so emotional. I am very against parasocial relationships, but being someone who grew up on Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, watching them on this like major movie, and this movie is so beautiful and it's so perfectly made, and they're such incredible actors, and you can tell that Jordan Peele wants to get the most out of them. You can tell he fully believes in their talent. It made me emotional. Like, for me, it was this like witnessing their like I made it moment, and maybe it's not their I made it moment for them, but that's how it felt for me, and I felt very, very proud. And I hope, I recently went to watch One of Them Days with Keke Palmer. Amazing. I always feel in awe getting to watch her, even just her interviews. She's such a charismatic, funny a person. She's really captivating, and I just hope the two of them keep getting booked because I love them. I loved Steve Yeun. I love Brendan. I think everyone in this movie is just so good. 27 Dresses. When I was younger, I mean like elementary school, middle school, I wanted to be a wedding planner. So this movie kind of hit. This movie's stupid, and even as a kid, I knew this movie was stupid, but it's so fun. It's so fun when they're at the bar and they're singing the lyrics wrong, and then they're in the heat of the moment and they go do things in the car. I love it. I love it. Eloise at Christmas time. Eloise is my girl. I love Eloise. I've always loved Eloise. I love the concept of children living in fancy hotels. That's why I loved Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I'm gonna read this directly from the PowerPoint because I love this. Eloise taught me you can be someone who wants it all and also gives it all. She's this mega rich kid in this hotel, and every movie, like every book, everything she does is just her being like, not being aware of like what money really is, and she's just like, oh, I know you wanted this, so I'm buying this for you. Oh, can we like afford to get this person to stay at the hotel? Like, can we pay for them? Like, she's so kind, and she's crazy. She's crazy. I love her, and she has the cutest little fits. So cute. She's my fashion inspo, even though I don't dress like her. Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. This is the perfect Christmas movie. F the holiday. Last Holiday is the Christmas movie. I love this movie. This is a staple in my household. I love Queen Latifah. She still looks like this. She still looks like this. She's so beautiful. Queen Latifah, as like a little immigrant child who moved to the United States, was one of the first actresses I was really aware of and like paid attention to what she was in and like enjoyed her work. So I think that's why she holds a very special place in my heart. This movie's so fun. I, as someone who loves to travel and loves this concept of like, do the things you want to do now because you could die tomorrow. Who knows where you're gonna be tomorrow? Just do it now, and then you can figure out the rest. That's this movie's whole concept, and I love it. I love it. Nacho Libre, iconic. This is real Mexican culture. I love everything about it. I love every quote. I quote it all the time. If I quote it to my family, to my boyfriend, to my friends, they know what I'm talking about. To my cousins. It's so good, and it has such a good message. And the food, like the corn, like the elote and the pan tostado, they look really good. I just want to eat them. Not the rest of the food though. The Predator 2018. This is my comfort movie. I love this movie. It's so bad. It's so bad. This probably has like 2 stars on Letterboxd, and it deserves it. It's one of my Letterboxd top 4. I love it. I love it. La Zona del Silencio is also one of my Letterboxd top 4, just so you know. Trevante Rhodes is in this, and I like Trevante Rhodes. He has this one scene that I think is so funny, and I don't think anyone else thinks it's funny because I don't think anyone else thinks this movie's funny. I love it. Again, aliens, scary. But I love this movie. It's one where I can watch it and just like turn my brain off and just be entertained. I'm like, Olivia Munn, entertain me. That's what you get paid for. Pacific Rim. Aliens are scary, and sometimes they come from the ocean, not the sky. Guillermo del Toro. I love this movie. The soundtrack, like the main soundtrack song, was my ringtone for a long time because I loved it when I was in high school. He built, this is my favorite fact about this movie, he built the like robot head. I know they have a name, I'm so sorry. The robot head, he built that. Like, he started it just to have like a concept, and then he got so enthralled that he built the actual robot head, and then everyone else in production had to be like, okay, now we're filming with the real robot head because this man built it. And that's why he inspires me so much. He's so problematic, but he's so good at what he does. Uptown Girls, y'all, I could cry. I watched this movie when I was a little girl. I remember I rented it from the library, thinking it was gonna be like funny. I thought it was gonna be funny. I thought it was gonna be like Cheaper by the Dozen. Brittany Murphy was, gosh, she was such a star. She was so kind. My Scorpio queen. I think as an adult, this movie hits a lot harder. I think as a child, you know, it was me being like, oh, I love Brittany Murphy's outfits in this, but I want Dakota's tea set. Like, I want her life. I want to have these things, like, at my disposal. And then watching it as an adult and watching them battle through these things. This movie's just so good. It's so good. This should be shown in schools. This should be taught in schools. The Mummy. I love The Mummy, The Mummy 2, and The Scorpion King. I know The Scorpion King is not good, but then rewatching the Mummy movies, they also have not aged well. I think this was the bisexual awakening of an entire generation. Everyone in this movie is so hot. I love them. No Notes, perfect movie. I am a librarian. No Notes, like, this should be on everyone's favorite movie list. I wanted to include because obviously I grew up watching a lot of Mexican movies with my family, with my grandpa, with my parents, so I wanted to include one that I genuinely enjoyed watching as a child. So this is El Padrecito, starring Cantinflas. Cantinflas was a huge actor, not just in Mexico but also in the United States. Look it up. These movies remind me of my grandpa. They just remind me, you know, of growing up with my family, and I think it's actually very funny. I have not gone back to watch these movies, so maybe they have also not aged well, but so have half the movies on this list already. Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I love it so much. I know that you guys don't, but I do. I don't think you can say this is the best Lord of the Rings movies. That doesn't exist. There's no right answer to that. But the second one is my favorite. I don't know why, it's always been my favorite. I love the soundtrack in this the most. I love that it's like the most build up towards the final installment. I put on this PowerPoint, Dune could never. I don't really know what I meant by that. Like, Dune could never be this famous, because that's true. But I do like the Dune movies. I don't know what my beef was when I made this. The Matrix. I watched this for the first time a couple years ago. I was very depressed, so I would just stay in my room in the dark and like watch things. That's when I first binge watched Succession. I think that's also when I binge watched the second season of Euphoria, but that's a whole other thing. The Matrix, though, one of my friends, he's obsessed with it, so then I wanted to watch it and be like, what's all this then? And I love it. I love it. I have the giant ass poster right in front of me to prove it. There's such cool outfits, and it's such a cool movie. And yes, obviously, like, the deeper meaning of it. I can't get into that, or we're gonna be here all day. But I just love it. I thought it was gonna be less interesting and more cheesy, like, going into it, but I really liked it. I love all of them, though. I think the other two should be talked about more. I know I'm not doing a good job of that too, but, like, I didn't even know half the cast existed because people only ever talk about, like, the main three characters. But justice for the other characters, because they're also really good. Sometimes I listen to Two Slow Dancers by Mitski. I'm telling you, this is on the PowerPoint. I'm telling you, Two Slow Dancers by Mitski, and I think about Neo and Trinity in that, like, coffee shop AU from the last movie, and I cry. My one regret from deleting TikTok is that I really wanted to commission someone to make me a video of Neo and Trinity to that song. Crimson Peak, Guillermo del Toro. I actually got to see these costumes in person because when I met Guillermo, because I went to his exhibit in LA. Again, grief is also love. Love is also grief. But I got to see these costumes in person, and I, like, cried when I saw her mom's costume, like the black dress, because laced into, like, every couple inches of the dress is, like, the black moth, butterfly, whatever. And it's, like, sewn in, and it's, like, each individual piece was, like, so, like, the hours that must have gone into that dress, and that dress, you see it for, like, a scene or two. It's not even the most prominent costume, but it was, like, so, like, I'm obsessed with his work ethic and his attention to detail, and I just love this movie. I think it's such a proper gothic romance horror movie. The others, this is, like, iconic. This is also one of the first horror movies I watched. I think I put on here, slow horror can be so beautiful if you're not Oz Perkins, and I stand by that. This, when you watch it for the first time, like, I think the plot twist gets everyone. It's so impeccable. Nicole Kidman is fantastic in this. Huge fan of hers, obviously. But yeah, I think this movie still, like, is one of few movies that manages to kind of transcend time. I love it. Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is another one of my Letterboxd top 4. I have a tattoo of this movie. I remember leaving this movie, and I was on the bathroom floor of my movie theater crying while my friends talked about how one of the actors in it was really hot, and I was like, wow, we experienced this very differently. I'm just gonna read this last bullet on here too, because I think that sums everything up. I too would search through every universe for my mom. The Sixth Sense. I was between this or Signs. Mr. Shyamalan. But I think this is scarier. I think it's, although aliens are scary, and that alien in Signs, when the little kid is like, it's right there, it's behind, and Joaquin Phoenix is like, that scared me so much when I was a kid. I think this is scarier. I think this is more moving. That scene where he's like, Mom, when he's peeing, and he's like, Mom, and it's not his mom. Everyone is so good in this. Toni Collette, like, what a horror icon. These next two are very unserious, but they are my favorites. I watch these every Halloween. I love them. Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. I think this is the best Disney Channel Halloween movie. Sorry, Halloween Town. Sorry, Twitches. I think this is the best one. It's so unserious. It's so unserious. I just think it's so fun, and I love vampires. I love vampires. I love the concept of vampires. I love this idea of like a vampire taking just like a suburban mom on a date because he wants to eat her and he doesn't count on her kids being so incredibly annoying. And last but not least is Under Wraps. This was the first DCOM ever made. I think this movie is so fun. I just needed like another childhood favorite, and this really won out for me. I was absolutely a Disney Channel girly, but I did love these more low-key movies versus like High School Musical or Camp Rock. I don't think any of that has aged well, and maybe these also haven't. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I think these have like plots that can transcend versus like Camp Rock. Even if you refilmed that now, like people would make fun of it. And these like bring a mummy to life, a vampire trying to K-word your mom. Those are movies that could be remade and remade very well. And I just think I too would have befriended a mummy when I was a kid. I think I'm gonna be real. The way they go about this movie, his room with all the horror stuff, I was like, yeah, this is relatable content. So those are my 28 favorite movies of my 28 years of being alive. I don't know what, maybe I'll add one every year. Maybe I will add one when I turn 29. I think getting older is such a blessing, and I think maybe I feel that way because I spent so many years of my life with my brain telling me to stop being alive. Maybe that's why I really appreciate it. But you know, I think there's a lot of people who wish they could be the ages we are now, and I think it makes me really sad when people take it for granted, or when people are like, I'm getting old and it sucks. Like, life doesn't have some big time frame that you have to follow. Life doesn't have things that you should have done by the time you turn 30. There's no thing that you should have done by the time you're 40. That's not real. Don't buy into that. That's not real. Enjoy your life now. Watch shitty movies and post them. Stop fixing your Letterboxd, your Goodreads, your social accounts to look like you only read or watch or take in interesting stuff. Post that you watched the Twilight movies 5 days in a row, because that's real. That makes you human. Stop catering to this fake audience. Stop only watching movies that are gonna get an Oscar and that are gonna make you seem intellectual. That's not real. Okay, that was my rant. Thank you for watching. Yeah, I'm gonna make more videos on movies. Obviously, I love them. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to watch, like my favorite horror movies, me talking more about Guillermo del Toro, anything like that. I could talk about Shrek forever, but anything of that nature, just let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I just started editing this video and I realized that I didn't include Monster House. It's on my list on Letterboxd for this. It's on my list, but I didn't put it on the PowerPoint, so then I didn't talk about it in the video. You guys are like, she can't count. So Monster House, the animated movie, is supposed to be on here. I love that movie. I think it's genuinely funny. Like Chowder, I love him. When I was a kid, it freaked me out, so it gets points for that. And it's also a story about how grief is also love, which is my favorite. And sometimes that means a person, a house, a place you've left behind. And I think it's a really moving children's films. Children's films tend to be very moving. So yeah, that's supposed to be on here. My bad.